Welcome to Turf Talk with Matt
and Casey.
Today we are on episode 21, and we are starting April.
Yeah.
So it's April 2023 when we're filming this. We're in the middle to end-ish of round one, putting down our pre-emergent, which is prodiamine. What have we kind of seen so far in the lawns?
So not a lot of action in the lawns right now. There are some winter weeds hanging out. I have seen a few previous year dandelions that have flowered. You'll probably notice that they're very squat. They're very short stem, but they are flowering on some south-facing exposures. We've seen a little bit of top growth. You might have had to mow once, maybe twice, but we're not seeing a whole lot of top growth because soil temperature is still very cool. We're still well under that 55-degree mark that we're looking for crabgrass germination. I believe today we're somewhere around the 42-degree mark. Soil moisture content is really high right now. We're somewhere around 38% because of all the rain we've had. That's great for the lawns. It's great for that pre-emergent application that we're putting down because it does need to be watered in. It just saves you, the customer, from having to break out the water hose and the sprinkler and water that product in. Mother Nature's taking care of that for you, so no worries there. But we're again not seeing a whole lot going on in the lawns just yet. Give it about 2 more weeks though, and I think we're going to see an explosion of top growth. We're going to start seeing some this year dandelions popping up. We're going to start seeing some other weeds pop up. So
yeah, I visited a couple of properties, and Casey visits properties every week just to do quality control on them. And I went out and visited a couple properties myself, and it seems as if, our customers from previous years, they're doing really good. We're just having to spot treat right now. We didn't see a lot of those hard to kill weeds so far. So our product is definitely working. That doesn't mean if you're watching this video, you could potentially still have some of that ground ivy and wild violets and some of those things that are hard to kill. And this is the perfect time that we're able to treat those properties with our product because it's not too warm out. And as we move into round 2, we may, if we're lucky, still get to use a little of that product in round 2. Well, it's all weather dependent. We play it by ear, and our program changes based on the weather. So based on the weather, the times we're coming out, our program changes to suit your needs better. That's one major difference between hiring a professional company and going to the store and buying a Scott's 4-step. That is just a generalized throw it out and hope for the best kind of product, and it doesn't adjust for the weather. And as Casey mentioned, the weather is changing a ton right now. We're getting a lot of it is starting to fluctuate warmer, but we also still have some cool nights. There's a lot of rain going on. I guess we kind of talked about a lot of the weather that we're seeing, and that's probably, I would assume, I'll let Casey answer this, but I'd assume this weather that we're seeing is going to kind of persist through April as well.
it will. The rain will start to slacken off, but I think for the next 2 weeks we're going to see generally what we're seeing today, which is mid-50s to 60s, cooler weather, cooler nights, spotty rain. Even though we're getting all this rain now, it doesn't mean that it's too early for you as a customer to start thinking about your watering plan though. Maybe you have irrigation, maybe you have to use the hose. Start thinking about that, have a plan ready so that when we are seeing the drier weather, we're not seeing 2 inches of rain each week. You have something ready to go so that you can start watering. The grass needs that water. It's the most important aspect of the lawn is having that water. Without that, our products aren't going to do the job that they're intended to do. You'll still see some results, but not the results that you're paying for. So make sure that you have a watering plan ready to go.
And in the show notes below here in the comments, we made a video a few years ago about how to make, set up your own, I called it I think a redneck irrigation system. And so it just involves some of the stuff that you already have, your hose, your sprinkler, and then go into the store and you can buy automatic timers for like $30.
Rainbird makes a great
And
timer.
you just hook them up, you digitally set the time that you want it to go off on, preferably in the morning, and it just goes off. You know, if you only want it to go off 3 days a week, you can set it all up and it just automatically goes off for the predetermined time, just like an irrigation system. The only thing is you do have to move it around. So, but we do have a video on how to make a redneck irrigation system. And I will put that in the show notes. And if you can be a benefit from that, we hope to be able to help you with that. So let's go into the fertilizer that we're using and the weed control that we're using. Round one, we used prodiamine.
Correct.
And last year, round one and round two, we used prodiamine. Kind of tell everybody some of the changes that we made this year and the reasons why we made those changes.
Sure. So the big change, Matt, is like you said, round two. Last year we used prodiamine. We did that because chemical costs went up, fertilizer costs went up due to some throwback from COVID, production issues, import issues. There was a lot that went into that. This year prices have kind of stabilized a little bit. They're still a little more elevated than we would like to see, but they have stabilized. What we've done is we've gone back to using Dimension in round two. And what Dimension is, it's a liquid herbicide that we're going to blanket spray across every lawn. And it's a pre and post emergent for crabgrass and other grassy weeds. Last year, if you were on our service, you might have had a little bit of crabgrass breakthrough. The prodiamine is a great product. It's about 85% effective. When we couple that prodiamine in round one with Dimension in round two, what we see is 95 or better percent effectiveness, and we're going to see very, very little to no crabgrass breakthrough this year because of that Dimension. It's such a great product. Now, I will caution you, the customer, it does have a bit of an odor, so on treatment day you may smell that for a little while after the guys treat. It goes away very quickly once the product dries, and it doesn't come back, with rain or with watering. But there is a bit of an odor once we spray. But the product itself is such a great product. It works so well. We decided that we wanted to bring that back in, and I don't think we're going to be taking that back out. So.
Yeah, well, we'll be using Dimension going forward every year. Just because, as for you, we want to give you the absolute best product we possibly can, and so we know that Dimension is going to give that next level of quality.
Absolutely. And
so we're always going to stick with that going forward. And I wanted to touch on one thing, as Casey said, that we blanket spray Dimension. We do that for a specific reason in round two. And that's because if before the crabgrass gets to a certain tiller stage, we can still spray that and knock it down and kill it. But when it's a really young crabgrass plant, it blends in so well with the rest of the grass that a tech cannot differentiate whether there's a crabgrass sprout at tiller stage one or if there's grass and should I spot spray it or not. So we just made it an overall process for us internally and for our techs that we just blanket spray everything to make sure that we are getting all of the young crabgrass sprouts. Yeah. So I just wanted to kind of touch on that a little bit. And so you're going to see some, right now as we're getting more weather or more rain and you have some fertilizer down, you're going to see some probably unevenness in the grass growth. And eventually that's going to level out as all the grass starts to grow. It gets a little warmer.
It will. Different grasses, they come back from dormancy at different times. They have different growth rates and growth habits. Eventually, like Matt said, as weather warms up, the color is going to even out. But right now you might have, if you have a blended lawn, you might have some patches that are a lighter green or a darker green that are responding to the fertilizer a little bit differently. Just because the air temperature and the soil temperature are still very cool. Things aren't quite 100% awake yet, but give it another 2 weeks, I think everything will be evened out nicely.
And so in April, we're also going to start, a lot of customers have our liquid aeration, and we also have a lot of people on clay soil programs. So if you're in new build, you're in, you know, specific, I mean, not specifically to Hamilton County, but those types of areas where there's a lot of new construction within the last 10 years or so. We have a lot of those people on clay soil programs to help amend that soil. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about why everybody that doesn't have liquid aeration or a clay soil program, why it's imperative to get that so that their grass can be at the best it can be?
Sure. So when they build a new home, they have to strip away the topsoil per code. It's not considered a stable environment to build a foundation. So when they strip that topsoil away, almost in every instance, they truck that stuff off, they sell it down the road. It doesn't get put back on the lawn. The clay that is underneath that is what's called dead soil. There's no biotic activity going on. There's no microbial life. There's very little insect life. It's not a very porous material. It's very dense. It's not going to hold water. It doesn't have much nutrient in it already. So what we have to do is we have to jumpstart that biotic activity. You know, you're planting grass, which is a living organism, into a dead soil, and you can't just expect that that's going to take off and thrive. So what we do is we put down microbes, and we put down bacteriums that thrive on eating the dead grass and all the dead leaf material and plant material that is found in a lawn, and turn that into usable compost. So over time, what that's going to do is it's going to build up a layer of compost under the soil that does contain microbial life, that does contain biotic activity, that does contain insect life that is naturally beneficial to the lawn, and it's going to give the plants a much more inviting and enticing environment to live in. They're going to thrive. They're going to be much more healthy. They're going to root deeper. You're going to see less disease. It's going to require less maintenance as far as, you know, overseeding and aeration, because the grass is just going to have a longer, more healthy life.
Yeah, and you know, and this blend that we use, that we've concocted, we've made it, and we've adjusted it over the years to make it our own blend. You know, it has things like humic acid in it and sea kelp in it, and those are two things. Like sea kelp is really good for helping stress. So your lawn stress, sea kelp is really good at helping your turf through those stressful conditions, like especially if you have heavy clay. When it starts to dry out, if you're not watering, that clay gets rock hard, just like concrete. And so it makes it really stressful for that turf plant. And so sea kelp really helps make that a more, cell structure within the plant a lot more stable. And so the humic acid also helps break bonds, molecular bonds, and so it makes microfractures throughout the clay, and it helps the water get through. And I'm sure you've noticed that when you get a lot of rain, that if you have a clay soil, a lot of that water just sits on the top because it's hydrophobic. Clay is naturally hydrophobic, and we have to apply products to make it less hydrophobic and more hydrophilic. Hydrophilic means it will allow water to filter through it. And we're not telling you that this product is going to turn your clay into topsoil. Like, it's not necessarily going to happen like that. It's going to give it a lot more topsoil characteristics, and it's going to have the more microbes and things like that in it. And the reason your front yard probably looks okay is because they have to sod your front lawn. And with sod, you get a little bit of topsoil with that. And so it's hanging on by a thread right now. Yeah. And so because there's just a little bit of topsoil and then all clay, that's why it's really important to have a liquid aeration and or a clay soil program in those specific areas. Now, if you're in Indianapolis, like Indianapolis has some of the best topsoil you're ever going to find. So it's not as imperative, but if you want like the best lawn on the block, you're going to be doing the pro package and getting liquid aeration. Like, that's what it's going to take to be the person that's going to have the best lawn on the block.
Absolutely.
You know, but if you're not after the best lawn on the block and you're in Indianapolis, you probably don't need the clay soil program inside the city, and you'll probably be fine on just a regular program with aeration and seeding. You have anything else to add to that?
No, I think that pretty much covers liquid aeration and clay soil both.
So let's move into pest control. We are in round 1 of pest control.
We are. A lot of the round 1 applications have already gone out. You may have seen your technician out doing your perimeter pest control and your mosquito. We're also doing round 1 of rodent control. We've done some mole and vole treatments already this year. We've done some flea and tick treatments already this year. Flea and tick has an extended season, so if you have not already signed up for flea and tick and you want to, you can still get in on round 1, catch all 3 treatments this year. The other pest control services, perimeter pest control, mosquito, those are a monthly service. So even if you missed round 1, we can get you in on round 2 in April. We can get you taken care of. You're still going to have plenty of time this season to take care of those pests, keep them out of the home.
And what temperature do mosquitoes typically, they move from larva to full-grown mosquitoes? Is it like 70 degrees?
It is 70 degrees,
Somewhere
but it
there.
varies from species to species. Some species are more adjusted to colder climates and colder weather. So we can see mosquitoes
I've been bit by
60
mosquitoes
degrees.
already.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see mosquitoes at 60 degrees. There are species that will become active and begin feeding. But 70 degrees is about the median where we really see almost all of those species very active, ready to breed, doing their thing. You know, they have to have that blood meal in order to do their egg laying and the reproductive processes. Without that blood meal, they can't reproduce. So they're going to be actively seeking that blood meal, looking to bite you.
And you know, perimeter pest control and mosquito differs because you need perimeter pest control really all year round because you have insect activity, and especially when it's wet or it's cold, those insects are going to want to move into the house, and maybe you might not see them as much because they like to hang out in the dark areas that kind of are away from you, but then you'll see that silverfish running through your living room, or you'll see, you know, the spiders that went rogue and decided to climb on your wall. And so we're trying to get away from that, but with mosquitoes, they're a little bit different. They have a definite season, and if you look at that season as a bell curve, you know, we're not going to treat from, you know, the baseline to baseline of this bell curve, but that's why we start treating now. We want to get at least 90% of that control so we can get ahead of them before they get to their heavy egg laying season, and so we can help control that. And that's why we start now, and then we end like October, November-ish. But let's really dive into this mole and vole treatment. This is a service that is very new to us. I mean, we know how to do it, and we're really good at it. But it's a new offer from us. We have experience. We have guys that have plenty of experience that have done this before. But explain to me, Casey, what is the big difference between a mole and a vole? Because a lot of people think that it's the same thing.
They do. They're often confused. Both are small gray rodents. Both live in the lawn. Both cause lawn damage. But the major difference is where they make their home in the lawn. Voles will operate at the base of the grass, so in the crown level. What they do is they tunnel through the crown level because they want protection from, you know, predators and things like that. They're not real fond of sunlight, but they will come out in the daytime as well as at night. And what they're doing is they're going to course through your lawn, and as they do, they're going to create these little tunnels and paths that you can visibly see above ground, and they can cause some serious issues in your lawn.
And they reproduce like crazy.
Like crazy, worse than rabbits. Moles, on the other hand, are subterranean. They live under the soil surface, and the only way you know you have a mole is when they dig, they push that soil up, and you'll see their paths as they run through there. Now what they're doing when they're digging, they're not eating the grass, they're eating the bugs that live under the grass, but as they dig through, they're tearing the grass roots up, they're pushing the soil up, They're creating air pockets where moisture is not readily available to the roots directly above, and they will cause dead paths to go through the lawn. You'll see your grass just die out in zigzaggy little lightning bolt patterns, and that's how you know you've got a mold.
And so let's talk a little bit about how we treat both of them, because the treatment, because these, even though to the homeowner they may sound very similar, the way that you treat them is completely different, and especially for safety purposes. So for moles, we use a bait that mimics their food type, an earthworm. So we use a bait that looks like that has the control on that bait. So when they eat that, it'll kill them. It'll take care of them, and you'll have no more mole. And the way that we do that, though, is because moles they run all over the place. They run on your property and potentially on your neighbor's property and so forth. And so we cannot treat on your neighbor's property. That's chemical trespassing. We can only treat your property. So the way that we do this service is we come out and we bait all of the runs, and then 2 weeks later we come back out and we bait them again. And then after the second bait, we know that they've had enough time to run their course between your house and the neighbor's house potentially, that we should have gotten all the activity by then, and stopped all activity. And so after that second treatment, you're going to get an email about 5 days later. It's going to ask you to compact all of those runs. And so if you see another run pop up in those same areas, we will come back out and treat that for free as part of our service warranty. But that's it does take a little bit of effort on your part to get rid of those moles after the second treatment, just to stomp down those. It's not too hard, but Casey, tell us a little bit about, so we use these earthworms because we put them subterranean, we put them in their tunnels, and then we cover that tunnel back up, and then we put a flag on it. So we do this and we put the flag so you know exactly where all this, the earthworms are that we put in. And so we don't want dogs or kids or anything messing with that control. And so Casey, tell us a little bit about the voles and how they're different and the safety that we use for the voles.
Sure. So with voles, because they're running above ground, what we want to do is we want to find their burrow, and we have small bait stations. That bait station holds a poisonous bait that attracts the vole. It smells much like their natural food sources, nuts and things like that. That bait station is very secure. It's a very dense, high impact plastic. It takes a special key to unlock. Only our technicians have those keys. Your kid's not going to be able to stick their finger in there and unlock it. The dog's not going to be able to chew through it very easily. I have pit bulls, so I'm sure they could find a way in it, but most dogs are not going to sit there and chew on it like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to locate those vole runs. We're going to get as close as we can to the entrance to their burrow, and we might dig out a little piece of the turf, and we want to fit that trap to where the vole actually runs right through it in order to get out of their home. So what they're doing when they leave their home is they're going in search of food. If we put that food right there at their front doorstep, it's very inviting to them, and it limits the activity that they need to, exert in order to go find a food source. So they're going to go right for that. They have to pass through it anyway. Once they get in there, they're going to eat that bait. They're going to go back to their burrow and they're going to perish. And every vole that exits that burrow is going to have to pass through that tunnel. So we have a very good chance of getting every vole that lives in that burrow.
And one of the houses that we took care of had like 5 burrows.
Yeah.
And so we put traps at the burrows, and these are very visible to you as a homeowner. So you can see them. They have a sticker on them with our logo and everything. So you know exactly what they are. They're low laying, so if they're in the grass, the chances of them getting hit by a lawnmower are very slim, but I still would not recommend mowing over top of them. But we want to keep this as protected as possible. We want to keep it as seamless as possible for that vole.
Yep.
Now this is a one-time service. You shouldn't need a second treatment. It's pretty rare that somebody needs a second treatment of those. And when you're done, you can either put those bait stations on your doorstep and our technician will pick them up next time they're there, or you can just dispose of them yourself. So what's new in the lawn? But we have a new treatment that we're going to take, for some really, really hard to control. I mean, much harder than wild violets and ground ivy.
Yeah, so what you're talking about, Matt, is nutsedge. Some of you may have heard it called watergrass. It grows in low-lying areas of the lawn that like to retain a lot of water. Typically, we start seeing that when we see soil temperatures hit that 70-degree mark. It does like warm weather. Now, you're going to know you have nutsedge because it's going to grow about 5 times faster than the lawn. So when you cut the lawn on Saturday and you walk out on Monday and you see these bright green shoots sticking up, like an alfalfa cowlick, you're going to know that's probably nutsedge. There are a couple other indicators for nutsedge. If you actually get down there and pick it, it has a very triangular shaped stalk. If it goes to seed, what you're going to notice is it has a very particular seed head, almost looks like a corn tassel.
Yeah.
But nutsedge is very voracious, and the way that it spreads, it grows nutlets in a ring around the base of the plant, and if you pluck that plant, it sends a chemical signal to those nutlets, hey, time for us to grow. So they're going to sprout up. So the more you pull it, the more you're actually spreading it. The best way to control that is chemically. What we're introducing this year is a nutsedge pre and post emergent. We want to put that down as a pre-emergent sometime end of April, beginning of May. And really get a good control on that. So if you know you have nutsedge, you had it last year, had problems with it in the past, you know about where it's at, you call us, we'll set you up for a treatment. You can mark that area or show that area to your technician. They'll come out, they'll treat that area for you. And then if the nutsedge does come back through that, it's going to be much less. We can come back again, hit it with the post-emergent, and really get a nice knock on that nutsedge. Now, I'm not saying that in one season or one treatment you're going to get rid of all of it. Nutsedge is very voracious. It does spread by seed as well. So, it could pop back up, or you could see, some residuals. We'll always come back and treat for you again as needed. But I think that this will be a great product to roll out this year. I think there are a lot of issues with nutsedge in our area, so it's a great benefit to you, the customer.
Yeah, and we don't add this into our normal program because then it would inflate everybody's costs. Mm-hmm. And
not everybody has nutsedge.
And not everybody has it. I mean, we do hear about it a lot just because it happens to be in our industry, but it might happen on 25 to 30% of lawns. And so we didn't feel that was a big enough need for everybody to include it in our program and charge everybody for this, right, when it was just a small sample size that actually needs it. So that's why we didn't include nutsedge in our program. And if you need it, we are definitely able to help on that. So and then landscaping is our final thing we wanted to talk about, Casey. Mm-hmm. And it is our final season for landscape work. So mulch and cleanups, it's the final season for that. We've already started that. Our teams are out in the field cleaning up properties and mulching. But landscaping was one of my favorite services. It's what helped build Green's Lawn Care into the business it is today. And many of you know us from our maintenance services. We used to do a lot of mowing and mulch and shrub trimming and all this kind of stuff. And we've transitioned all of our mowing clients to another company in the area that does a really good job, has really awesome reviews. I've known them for a long time. And this other company, we actually do all of their fertilization for them.
We do.
So we have a really close relationship and bond. And he's taken over all of our mowing customers. And so we know that they're all going to be in really good hands. And this is our final year for mulch and cleanups. It's, we would love for you to hire us and give us a one last final hurrah, and be able to take care of your properties one final time before we have to give you a recommendation for somebody else, because it was one of the pinnacle services of Green's Lawn Care and Property Service. People knew us from our mulch quality and the quality of edging and things of that nature. But as time goes on, the business changes and you have to change with the times. And so we found other services that are able to provide our team better living wages, better benefits, and more security in their career and for their families. And so we had to transition services. As we know, our businesses know better than the people who work within it. And so if we aren't be able to meet their needs, they're going to go to another business or look for another business that can meet those needs of the better benefits and the better pay and more security, job security, and things of that nature. So, that's why we made these changes, and that's why we're going into the fertilization pest control. That's why we're adding interior pest control next year. We're really moving down this path as fast as possible, 100% because of our team, with our team at the forefront of all these decisions.